Expeditions are finally getting improvements. No, you didn't hear me wrong. After almost 8 months since its release, Expeditions are finally getting some big changes that will make the entire experience of Expeditions a whole lot easier. And for a lot of players, this news will come as a relief. And in today's video, we're going to be covering everything you need to know. So without any further ado, let's dive right on in. So, at the start of the week, Monday 24th, Bethesda released some updated patch notes regarding the current iteration of the PTS. And for people who are unaware, the PTS is the public test server, which is only available on PC, and it's where every new update is tested by the community before it goes live to the live servers. Now, I'm going to jump straight into the changes that are coming to Expeditions, and then we'll break down and discuss each of these changes and give my honest opinion on each. I'll also make sure to link this article below in the pinned comment so you can check out everything for yourself. But to kick things off, and as mentioned in the recent PTS patch notes, Expeditions. In this PTS playtesting phase, we have included some adjustments to Expeditions and their rewards. The following changes have been made. Players no longer need to charge the ultrasight battery to run an expedition. Fuel quests are no longer mandatory before leaving for an expedition and are now daily quests with updated rewards that are more in line with other daily quests. Players can join an expedition even if they haven't finished the quest Responders Reborn, but cannot start a mission as a leader until they have completed that quest. Ashes to Fire now grants increased stamps and legendary items, and we've reduced the stamp cost from vendors on their items. Straight off the bat, these changes are incredible, and regardless if Bethesda have made these changes either through community feedback or through player number participation, it's a positive step in the right direction, as it shows that Bethesda are listening to the community, be it through player reports or numbers on a page. But still, these changes are awesome. Looking at the first change that's on its way, players no longer need to charge the ultrasight battery to run an expedition. I'm probably not the only one who feels this way, and I can probably speak for a ton of people who felt this way since Expeditions launched. That this process was and still is one of the most tedious tasks in the entire process, and also build up to actually going to the pit. For a lot of people, Expeditions has somewhat felt like a Daily Ops 2.0, and considering the only task you need to do to enter a Daily Op is to click on the Daily Ops icon, and then there you go, you're in a Daily Op. So considering Expeditions has a similar framework to Daily Ops, this change makes a lot of sense. However, on the other hand, I can see why this feature was initially implemented. Traveling to the pit was meant to feel like this big build-up, and by completing tasks for the White Springs Refuge and gathering the fuel for the vertibird that you'll eventually use to fly to the pit was meant to feel like this immersive experience, like you're actually flying to the pit. You've done all this work and now you're off. But having to do the same if not similar tasks every single day, and quite honestly the only daily that really bugged me the most was having to give away my own junk materials to Sophie, because regardless if you have an abundance of materials or if you have barely anything, this task on a long-term scale was eating into your inventory, because at the end of the day, junk materials are one of the core fundamentals of camp building, weapon management and ammo production, and quite honestly I was very reluctant to even do this daily sometimes, and I can see why other players would also feel the same way. But regardless of which daily quest you needed to complete, the whole process overall would inevitably turn off a lot of players, as it felt like a repetitive grind just to get to the mode that you wanted to play. Which brings me on to the next change mentioned, which is fuel quests are no longer mandatory before leaving for an expedition and are now daily quests with updated rewards that are more in line with other daily quests. The first question I had when I read this was, what is going to happen with these NPCs now that we don't need them to earn ultrasight battery fuel? Personally, I'm happy Bethesda have decided to do this, because hopefully now, similar to other daily quests, hopefully we can earn scrip upon completing these daily quests. To be honest, if scrip or any other useful in-game currency is not going to be used as a reward for these NPCs, then in the long run these characters would eventually become forgotten about. I mean, the White Springs Refuge was turned into this temporary player hub, and if these NPCs wouldn't provide any meaningful investment for you as a player, then what would happen to them? So overall, I'm happy that they've decided to keep these characters as part of your character's daily adventures, because let's face it, at the end of the day, there was time and work put into each of these characters. People took time out of their day to voice each of them, and to see them become forgotten about, well, that would be a little bit disappointing. But I really hope characters such as Orlando will have their backstory expanded upon, because if you take the time to learn about their backstory, Orlando claims to be a representative of the resort's management, the pre-war owners of the building, who are unable to fully oversee the resort due to certain circumstances. So going on that statement alone, we know know that this is the Enclave, and again, I've said this hundreds of times already, an Enclave DLC needs to happen, so seeing these characters potentially get repurposed for future content would be awesome. Moving on to the next change which is on the way, which is players can join an expedition even if they haven't finished the quest Responders Reborn, but cannot start a mission as a leader until they have completed that quest. So obviously a great change which will overall slice your time in half if you're joining your friends on an expedition to the Pit. However, at the same time too, it's understandable why they would want to keep it, as it does introduce the mechanics of how to start an expedition, mainly fulfilling the refuge dailies. However, if the refuge dailies will no longer be a thing, then overall it seems like this introductory quest will more than likely be sliced in half anyway, because 80% of this quest is completing the 3 mandatory daily quests to gather the fuel that you need to fly to the Pit. So it sounds like the only thing that you'll need to do is to initially speak with Orlando, discuss their backstory, speak to Skippy so he can tell you all about the Pit and what's happening over there, and then speak to Lennox to let her know when you want to go on an expedition. So overall seems quick enough, and once you have it done, you'll never need to do it again. Moving on to the next change, which is Ashes to Fire now grants increased stamps and legendary items. Honestly, this is definitely a welcome change and improvement that I think nobody is going to be upset about, but on the other hand, we all know you can't please everybody, but at the same time too, it makes a lot of sense why Ashes to Fire was prioritized over Union dues. If you look at the 2 missions themselves, overall Ashes to Fire has you completing more tasks and more challenging tasks while faced with the risk of high levels of radiation throughout the mission. There's more engagement from beefier enemies such as Trogs and end of dungeon bosses, and compared to Union dues, which can be completed fairly quickly, once you get used to the layout in the process, you can see why this change was made. Now, in the long run, Bethesda will more than likely see from monthly data that players will be running Ashes to Fire a lot more compared to Union dues, because having increased stamps and legendary items as an incentive, it's kind of a no-brainer why players will probably engage in this mission a lot more. However, I don't really see Union dues being forgotten about, because let's face it, once that repetitive feeling kicks in, having Union dues as the other option will prevent the expeditions experience becoming stale. Now, I know there's probably a ton of people who'll probably say, we need more expedition missions as it already feels stale, but don't worry, I completely understand. However, that's where we really need that 2023 roadmap, and we need to see some more signs that more expedition missions are on the way. And lastly, the final change which is on the way, which is we've reduced the stamp cost from vendors on their items. Besides the repetitive grind that was actually getting to the Pit from completing daily quests, the biggest grind of all was the rewards you can unlock from Giuseppe's inventory. I can't even begin to describe how many players have become burnt out from the grind of collecting stamps and unlocking all of the rewards available in Giuseppe's inventory. I mean, prior to patch 43, which was introduced about a week or 2 ago, I only had 1 item left to unlock from his inventory, and after completing multiple expeditions on a regular basis, unlocking stamps from multiple scoreboards, realistically it's taken me 5 to 6 months to obtain 90% of the rewards that are available from the entire expeditions experience. That is insane! And don't get me wrong, I know depending on how regularly you play 76, that number can vary. However, considering I mainly cover this game on my channel, I live stream it, I play 76 on a regular basis, that kind of grind can get very tedious real quick. And on a side note, I was only lucky enough to obtain most of these rewards through completing expeditions and receive them as the weekly bonus item you unlock each week. And now that these items will eventually become reduced in price, that is a change I know a lot of players will be relieved about. Now, on the other hand, it does mean that if these items become a lot more easier to obtain, and once players blast through the grind of collecting them, will there be new rewards added? But again, that's where new expeditions will eventually have to come into play, because once players have everything that's available, then expeditions just becomes another form of farming legendary items. And considering the amount of time that it takes to complete a mission like Ashes to Fire, well, in terms of longevity, it'll become a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster to farm legendaries for script and legendary modules by just going back and launching nukes and farming queens. Now, don't take this the wrong way, I'm not trying to sound like I'm unhappy with this change, on the contrary, I'm delighted this change is happening, but in terms of longevity, that's where I'm a little bit anxious. But with that, that's everything from the new upcoming changes coming to expeditions. We still have roughly a month before these changes are implemented, and considering these changes are currently on the PTS and things can change very quickly before any update comes to the live servers, I really hope these changes eventually happen. Let me know below in the comments what you thought about some of these changes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and what you think about expeditions overall. We'll have more videos on the way covering more changes and quality of life features that are on the horizon, so if you don't want to miss out and want to be kept up to date with everything Fallout related, consider clicking that subscribe button and turning on that bell notification button, and if you enjoyed today's video, consider dropping a like. And before we head on out, I want to say a big thank you to our channel members for your continued support and dedication to the channel, and of course to all of our subscribers subscribers who've helped the channel to grow. If you're looking to pick up some Bethesda theme items over on the Bethesda store, you can use my creator code BTPineapple044 to receive 20% off of your purchases at checkout. And if you'd like to support the channel a little bit more personally, consider checking out my merch store, which has an array of t-shirts, mugs, prints, and other pineapple themed merch, which I'll leave in a link in the description of this video. And lastly, to you, the viewer, the person who stumbled upon this video, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, Vault Dwellers, stay safe out there in the wasteland. Welcome to Vault 93, and I'll catch you all in the next video.